The jungle is silent. Too silent. For men move through the green hell like ghosts. No talking, no radio chatter, just hand signals and the faint crunch of rotting leaves underfoot. They've been walking for 6 hours. Their boots are soaked, their uniforms cling to their skin, but they don't stop. This is the SAS, the British Special Air Service, the regiment that hunts in places others won't even enter, 50 meters ahead. Enemy fighters are camped near a river. They have no idea death is creeping toward them. The SAS patrol leader raises a fist. Everyone freezes. He scans the terrain, count the targets, measure the wind. Then he signals, move in. These men don't rush. They don't panic. They've trained for this moment 1,000 times. And when it's over, no one will know they were ever here, except the enemy, because the enemy won't be alive to tell anyone. This is what elite warfare looks like. Not Hollywood, not heroics. Just skill, silence, and the will to outlast anyone. If you want more stories like this, make sure to subscribe, like, and share. The Brecon beacons rise like jagged teeth against the Welsh sky. Gray rock, gray clouds, gray faces staring up at the mountains they're about to climb. Again. It's so for 00 hours. 40 men stand in the cold, waiting. Most of them are already elite soldiers. Paratroopers, Royal Marines, infantry veterans with combat tours under their belts. They've passed every test their units could throw at them. None of that matters here. This is SAS selection, and it doesn't care what you've done before. An instructor walks past the line of candidates. He doesn't shout, doesn't motivate, just stops, points at a grid reference on each man's map, and says one word, go. The first candidate hoists his rucksack 55 pounds of dead weight and starts walking. Then the next, then the next. They disappear into the darkness, one by one. Heading toward checkpoints scattered across 15 miles of brutal terrain, they'll walk alone. No partners, no safety net, just a map, a compass, and the knowledge that if they're too slow, they're out. No second chances, no explanations, just a tap on the shoulder and the words, thanks, but you're done. Selection lasts 5 months. But most men don't make it past the first 3 weeks. The Brecon beacons aren't the tallest mountains in Britain. They're not technically difficult to climb, but they break men faster than any battlefield. Why? Because selection marches happen in winter, in freezing rain, in fog so thick you can't see your own feet. The wind cuts through your uniform like a blade. Your hands go numb, your legs scream after the first hour, and you've got 7 more hours to go. Every march gets longer, heavier, harder. Week 1, 15 miles with 55 pounds. Week 2, 18 miles with 55 pounds. Week 3, 20 miles with 60 pounds. And then comes endurance, a 40-mile march across the worst terrain in Wales. Candidates have 20 hours to finish. Most don't, but here's the thing. Selection isn't about physical strength. Plenty of strong men fail. Bodybuilders quit. Athletes tap out. Because when your legs stop working and your brain is screaming at you to stop, strength doesn't matter. Mental toughness is. Imagine this. You've been walking for 12 hours. Your feet are blistered. Your shoulders are raw from the rucksack straps. You're soaked to the bone, and you just reached your checkpoint. The instructor looks at your time, nods, then points at the next grid reference another 6 miles away, straight up a mountain. You don't know if you're fast enough. You don't know if anyone else is still going. You don't even know if you'll pass if you finish. But you keep walking. That's the selection mindset. It's not about being fearless. It's about being too stubborn to quit. SAS instructors don't want supermen. They want soldiers who can function when everything hurts, when they're exhausted beyond reason, and when quitting would be the logical choice, because that's what special operations demand. Missions don't stop because you're tired. Patrols don't take breaks because your feet hurt. And if you're pinned down behind enemy lines, no one's coming to rescue you. You handle it, or you die. Selection finds the men who can handle it. Out of every 100 candidates who start selection, fewer than 10 finish. The rest quit or get injured, or simply can't keep up. Some fail on day one, others make it weeks before their bodies give out. A few get within sight of the finish line and still don't make it. The instructors don't care. They're not trying to help you pass. They're trying to break you. And if you break, you don't belong in the regiment. One former candidate described it like this: selection doesn't teach you anything. It just shows you what you're made of, and most of us aren't made of what the SAS needs. The men who pass aren't necessarily the fittest. They're not always the smartest, but they share one trait. They refuse to stop, even when their bodies are shutting down, even when every rational part of their brain says, "This is stupid, just quit." They don't. The final test of the hills phase is called endurance, but everyone calls it the long drag. 40 miles, 20 hours, 70 pounds on your back. You start in the dark, you walk alone, and the terrain is designed to destroy you. Steep climbs, boggy valleys, rivers you have to wade through, fog that turns navigation into guesswork, and checkpoints placed so far apart that you can't afford a single wrong turn. Most candidates don't finish. They collapse from exhaustion, they get hypothermia, they misjudge a ridgeline and lose an hour, or they simply run out of time. The ones who do finish off and can't walk for days afterward. Their feet are shredded. Their knees are ruined. Their shoulders are bruised black from the rucksack, but they're still in, and that's when the real selection begins. After the mountains, survivors go to the jungle. Brunei, usually 6 weeks in the rainforest, learning to operate in a place where everything wants to kill you. Heat, humidity, mosquitoes, leeches, snakes, infections that turn a small cut into a medical emergency. Candidates learn patrol tactics, ambush drills, survival skills. They live on minimal rations, sleep 2 hours a night, and navigate through terrain where you can't see 10 feet ahead. It's not as physically brutal as the mountains, but it's mentally exhausting in a different way. The jungle is disorienting, claustrophobic, and sleep deprivation grinds men down until they start making mistakes. Mistakes get you killed, or worse, get your patrol killed. So the instructors watch and wait and pull aside anyone who hesitates, who loses focus, who shows even a flicker of doubt, because in the SAS, doubt is a liability. Here's what most people don't understand about SAS selection. It's not a skills course, it's a filter. The skills come later. During continuation training, selection's only job is to find men who won't quit, won't crack, and won't let their team down when everything goes wrong, because in special operations, everything eventually goes wrong. Plans fail, intelligence is wrong, helicopters don't show up, radios die, and when that happens, you're alone in enemy territory with nothing but your training and the 3 men beside you. Selection finds the soldiers who can handle that, who can stay calm when the mission falls apart, who can make decisions under extreme stress, who can keep moving forward when every instinct says to freeze. It's not about being the toughest, it's about being unbreakable. And when selection is over, the men who remain aren't just soldiers anymore. They're SAS. For men walk through enemy territory. They've been moving for 3 days. No resupply, no reinforcements, no extraction plan if things go wrong. They are alone. This is an SAS patrol, and this is how they fight. Not with overwhelming firepower, not with air support or armored vehicles, just for highly trained soldiers, operating deep behind enemy lines, gathering intelligence, setting ambushes, and disappearing before anyone knows they were there. This is reconnaissance warfare, silent, surgical, deadly, and it's harder than any firefight you can imagine. The SAS operates in 4-man teams, not 5, not 3. For why? Because 4 is the perfect number for this kind of work, small enough to move quietly, large enough to fight if things go bad, and structured so that every man has a specific role but can do every job if needed. Here's how it breaks down. Patrol commander makes all tactical decisions, navigates, chooses routes, decides when to move, when to hide, and when to fight. Signaler, handles all radio communication, encodes messages, manages satellite comms, in modern operations. He's also the tech specialist drones, GPS, electronic surveillance, medic, keeps everyone alive, treats injuries, monitor health, carries extra medical supplies. In a firefight, he's also a rifleman, demolitions expert, handles explosives, set charges, disarms enemy ordnance, also carries the heaviest weapon, usually a light machine gun. But here's the critical part. Every man is cross-trained in every role. If the medic gets hit, someone else takes over. If the signaler goes down, the patrol can still call for help. There's no weak link, no passenger. Every man pulls his weight, always. Moving through enemy territory isn't like hiking. It's not even like normal military patrol tactics. It's an art form. SAS patrols move slowly, deliberately, sometimes covering just 2 miles in an entire day. Why? Because speed doesn't matter. Staying undetected does. Every step is calculated. You don't walk on trails to predictable. You don't silhouette yourself on ridgelines to visible. You avoid open ground, water sources, and anything the enemy might be watching. You move through the hardest terrain, the thickest brush, the steepest slopes, because that's where the enemy doesn't expect you. And you do it silently. No talking, no coughing, no unnecessary movement, hand signals only. If you need to communicate something complex, you wait until the patrol stops, then whisper directly into someone's ear. Even your gear is taped down, metal clips covered, straps secured. Anything that might rattle or clink is fixed or removed. Because in the silence of a jungle or desert night, even the smallest sound carries. One SAS veteran described it like this: you move like you're made of smoke. You're there, but you're not. And if you do it right, the enemy walks right past you and never knows. SAS patrols operate under 2 modes: hard routine and soft routine. A soft routine is used during the day, when movement is necessary. You can whisper, you can eat cold rations, you can carefully adjust your gear, but you're still disciplined, still alert, still ready to freeze at the first sign of danger. The hard routine starts at dusk and lasts until dawn, and it's brutal. No movement, no talking, no smoking, no cooking, no light. Nothing that could give away your position. You sit in total silence, in the dark, for 12 hours straight. You don't scratch an itch. You don't shift position. You barely breathe. Imagine that. Sitting motionless in freezing rain, or in a jungle crawling with insects, or in a desert where scorpions hide in your gear. For half the night, every night, for weeks. It's psychological torture. But it works, because enemy patrols move at night, and if you're silent and invisible, they walk right past you. They never know you're there, and when dawn comes, you're still alive and undetected. That single quotes as the goal, not heroics, just survival and mission success. Every night, the patrol stops and sets up a lying-up position. This is where they rest, eat, and plan the next day's movement. But rest is a relative term. The LUP is chosen carefully. Good visibility, decent cover, near an escape route, far from trails or water sources where the enemy might pass. The patrol moves into position in total silence. They set up in a small circle, facing outward, so every man covers a different direction. Then they settle in for the night. One man is always on watch. The others rest, but they don't sleep deeply. They're in that half-awake state where any unusual sound jolts them, fully alert. No fires, no lights. Rations are eaten cold. Water is rationed carefully, and if the enemy comes close, the patrol doesn't fight. They slip away into the darkness and relocate, because the mission isn't to engage the enemy, it's to observe, report, and survive. Here's what makes SAS patrol work so mentally demanding. You're alone in hostile territory, often for weeks, with no backup. If you get compromised, there's no quick reaction force coming to save you, no helicopter extraction, no artillery support. You're on your own, That knowledge sits in the back of your mind every second of every day. You're constantly scanning, listening, watching for threats. Your brain never shuts off. Even when you're resting, part of you is alert, processing every sound, every movement, every change in the environment. It's exhausting. Not physically, though. That's hard too, but mentally. The hypervigilance, the responsibility, the knowledge that one mistake could get your entire patrol killed. Some men thrive under that pressure. Others crack. Selection weeds out the ones who crack. The patrol commander carries the heaviest weight, not in his rucksack, in his head. Every decision is his. Which route to take, when to move, when to hide, whether to bypass an enemy position or call in an airstrike. Get it right, and the patrol completes its mission and comes home. Get it wrong, and people die. One former SAS patrol commander described it. You're playing chess, but the board is a jungle. The pieces are your mates' lives, and the enemy doesn't follow any rules. You make the best call you can with the information you have, and you live with the consequences. That's why SAS commanders are chosen carefully. They're not the loudest or most aggressive soldiers. They're the calm ones, the thinkers, the men who can process information under stress and make decisions without hesitation, because hesitation gets people killed. People think combat is the biggest threat on patrol. It's not. Dehydration, malnutrition, and exhaustion kill more patrols than bullets. SAS soldiers carry minimal rations, lightweight, high-calorie, but never enough. On a 2-week patrol, you're constantly hungry. Your body burns thousands of calories a day, and you're replacing maybe half of them. Water is worse. In the jungle, you can filter water from streams. In the desert, you're limited to what you carry, and if you run out, you're in serious trouble. One veteran described it. By day 10, you're not thinking about the mission anymore. You're thinking about food, water, sleep. Your body is cannibalizing itself, but you keep moving, because stopping means failing. This is where mental toughness separates SAS soldiers from everyone else. They've learned to function while starving, dehydrated, and exhausted. They've learned to ignore their body's distress signals and keep going, because the mission doesn't care if you're hungry. In a 4-man patrol, trust isn't optional, it's survival. You trust your patrol commander's decisions. Even when you don't understand them, you trust the signaler to get the message out. Even under fire, you trust the medic to keep you alive if you're hit. You trust the demo guide to blow the target without killing you in the process. And they trust you the same way. That trust is built during selection, during training, during dozens of missions together. It's unspoken but absolute, because when you're alone behind enemy lines, trust is the only thing holding your patrol together. One SAS soldier put it simply, I'd walk into hell with my patrol, not because I'm brave, because I know they'd walk in with me, and we'd walk out together. That's the bond. That's the standard. And that's why SAS patrol tactics work when others fail. The jungle is alive. Not just with animals and insects, with sound, movement, danger hidden in every shadow. You can't see more than 10 meters in any direction. The canopy blocks the sun, the humidity suffocating. Your uniform is soaked through within an hour, and everything, plants, animals, even the water, seems designed to kill you. This is where the SAS learned to hunt. The jungle isn't just terrain, it's an enemy. It drains your strength, clouds your mind, and punishes every mistake. But master it, and you become invisible, untouchable, a predator moving through a world where your enemy can barely survive. The SAS didn't just adapt to jungle warfare, they perfected it. Imagine walking through a steam room for weeks without ever drying off. That's jungle warfare. The temperature hovers around 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Humidity sits at 100%. You sweat constantly, but it doesn't evaporate. It just soaks into your gear, adding weight and rubbing your skin raw. Your boots are always wet, always. You wade through rivers, trudge through swamps, and walk on ground that's never fully dry. Within days, your feet start to rot, trench foot, fungal infections, blisters that refuse to heal, And that's just the environment. The jungle is full of things that bite, sting, and poison you. Leeches latch onto your skin and drink your blood. Mosquitoes carry malaria and dengue fever. Fire ants swarm if you brush against the wrong tree. Venomous snakes hide in the leaf litter. Every step is a gamble. Every rest stop is a risk. But SAS soldiers don't just survive the jungle. They use it. In the jungle, speed is your enemy. Rushing makes noise, snaps branches, disturbs wildlife, and alerts anyone listening that someone is moving through their territory. So SAS patrols move slowly, painfully slowly. 2 miles in 8 hours is normal, sometimes less. Each man places his feet carefully, testing the ground before committing his weight, avoiding dry sticks, stepping over roots, moving around thick vegetation instead of pushing through it. You don't use machetes to cut a path that leaves a trail anyone can follow. Instead, you find natural gaps in the foliage, squeeze through, bend branches back gently and let them return to their original position. Your eyes are constantly scanning, not just for enemy soldiers, but for signs of recent activity, boot prints, broken branches, disturbed ground, anything that tells you someone else has been here. Because in the jungle, you're never really alone. Sound carries in the jungle. Not far the vegetation dampens it, but distinctly. A cough, a metal canteen, clinking against a rifle, the scrape of a boot on a log, any of those sounds can kill you. So SAS patrols operate under absolute nose discipline. Hand signals only, no talking, gear taped down so nothing rattles. Even your weapon is carried in a way that minimizes noise. If you need to communicate something complex, you wait until the patrol stops. Then you lean in close and whisper directly into someone's ear, barely audible. One veteran described it. You learn to breathe quietly, to move without sound. Even your thoughts feel too loud, because you know the enemy is out there, listening, just like you. The jungle rewards patience, punishes carelessness, and the SAS learned that lesson faster than anyone thought. In the jungle, being seen is death. SAS soldiers don't just wear camouflage uniforms. They become part of the environment. Face paint breaks up the outline of your features, green and black patterns that match the jungle shadows. Your hands get the same treatment, any exposed skin. But camouflage isn't just about color. It's about shape and movement. You avoid silhouetting yourself against lighter backgrounds. You stay low, use vegetation to break up your outline. And when you stop, you position yourself so you blend into the terrain behind a tree trunk, inside a thicket, anywhere your shape doesn't stand out. Movement is controlled, slow, deliberate, because the human eye is wired to detect motion. Stay still, and you're invisible. Jerk your head around, and you're spotted. One SAS instructor put it simply, in the jungle, the best camouflage is not being there. Second best is looking like you're not there. And if you can't do either, you're already dead. You need water to survive. But water sources are dangerous. Rivers, streams, and watering holes are where everyone goes. Animals, civilians, enemy patrols, which means they're also where ambushes happen. SAS patrols approach water carefully. They scout the area first, look for signs of enemy activity, watch for tracks, disturbed ground, or anything out of place. If it looks clear, one man moves to the water while the others provide cover. He fills canteens quickly, quietly, and gets out. No lingering, no unnecessary exposure. The water itself is often contaminated. Parasites, bacteria, chemical runoff. So it's purified, boiled if possible, treated with tablets if fire isn't an option. Dehydration is a constant threat. You sweat out liters of water every day. But drinking and treated water can incapacitate you just as fast. Dysentery, giardia, cholera. In the jungle, even basic survival is tactical. SAS patrols carry rations, but not enough for extended operations. Eventually, you supplement with whatever the jungle provides. That means knowing what's edible, what's poisonous, how to trap small animals, how to fish without gear, how to find grubs, insects, and roots that won't kill you. It's not glamorous. You're eating things that would make most people gag, but calories are calories. And in the jungle, you need everyone. One veteran remembered, we ate snakes, lizards, palm hearts, anything we could find. You stop thinking about taste, you just think about energy, about keeping your body functional for one more day. This knowledge comes from training. From jungle survival courses where you're dropped into the rainforest with minimal supplies and told to make it work. Because in a real operation, there's no resupply, no backup plan. Just you, your patrol, and the jungle. The SAS didn't go to the jungle to survive, they went to hunt, and their weapon of choice was the ambush. Here's how it works. You identify an enemy route, a trail they use regularly. Then you set up a kill zone. The patrol positions itself in an L shape along the trail, maximum firepower concentrated on a small area, fields of fire overlapping, escape routes covered. Then you wait, sometimes for hours, sometimes for days. You don't move, don't make noise, just watch the trail and wait for the enemy to walk into your trap. When they do, the patrol opens fire, not wild spray and pray, controlled. Disciplined shooting, every round counts, every target is engaged. It's over in seconds. The enemy is down, the patrol polices up weapons and intelligence. Then they disappear back into the jungle before reinforcements arrive. No prolonged firefight, no heroic last stand, just a surgical strike and a ghost-like withdrawal. That's SAS jungle warfare, efficient, deadly, invisible. The jungle doesn't just attack your body, it attacks your mind. The constant wetness, the insects, sleep deprivation, the claustrophobic feeling of being surrounded by vegetation, it grinds you down. You start to feel paranoid. Every rustle could be an enemy patrol, every shadow could be a threat. Your brain is on high alert 24/7, and it's exhausting. Some men start seeing things that aren't there, hear voices in the wind, hallucinate from lack of sleep and poor nutrition. This is where mental toughness becomes survival. You have to recognize when your mind is playing tricks on you. Stay rational, trust your training, lean on your patrol mates. One SAS soldier described it, the jungle gets in your head, makes you doubt yourself, but you learn to push through it, to accept the discomfort and keep functioning. Because stopping means dying, and we don't stop. The SAS perfected jungle warfare during two campaigns, the Malayan emergency in the 1950s and the Borneo confrontation in the 1960s. In Malaya, they hunted communist insurgents through dense rainforests, small patrols, long-range reconnaissance, ambushes deep in enemy territory. They learned to live in the jungle for months, to operate without resupply, to win the trust of local tribes who provided intelligence, and to strike hard and fast before melting back into the green. In Borneo, they did it again, this time against Indonesian forces infiltrating across the border. The terrain was even worse, the operations are even deeper, but the SAS thrived. They turned the jungle from an obstacle into an advantage. They moved through it like they were born there, and they inflicted casualties far beyond their numbers. By the end of those campaigns, the SAS had a reputation. If you're fighting them in the jungle, you've already lost. Today, jungle warfare is taught to special forces worldwide. The tactics, the mindset, the survival skills, and most of it traces back to the SAS. They proved that small, highly trained teams could dominate terrain that conventional forces couldn't even operate in. They showed that patience, discipline, and silence were more powerful than firepower, and they did it by becoming part of the jungle itself, not fighting it, not fearing it, just accepting it, adapting to it, and using it to hunt. That's the SAS way. And in the green hell, it's the only way that works. Fort Bragg, North Carolina, 1980s. A Delta Force operator sits across from an SAS instructor during a joint training exercise. They've just finished a 20-mile ruck march through the North Carolina hills. The American is limping, blisters, swollen feet, raw spots on his heels. The British soldier, he's fine, not even breathing hard. The Delta operator looks down at his boots, then at the SAS man's boots, same brand, same model, same terrain. He asks the question, how the hell are your feet not destroy? The SAS instructor smiles. You want the secret? That conversation happened dozens of times, with SEALs, with Green Berets, with Rangers. American special operators, some of the toughest soldiers on Earth, kept noticing the same thing. SAS soldiers could march farther, faster, and longer without foot injuries. And when the missions got brutal, when everyone else was hobbling, the Brits just kept going. It wasn't genetics, it wasn't luck. It was their boots, or, more accurately, how they prepared and wore them. Most people think foot care is basic, boring, not worth obsessing over, but, in special operations, your feet are mission-critical equipment. A blister can end a patrol, a twisted ankle can compromise an entire mission, a trench foot can sideline you for weeks, and if you can't walk, you can't fight. The SAS learned this the hard way. During early jungle operations in Malaya, soldiers were pulled off missions not because of combat injuries, but because their feet gave out. So they studied the problem, experimented, developed a system. And that system became one of the most closely guarded secrets in special operations until American units started asking questions. Here's what most soldiers do with new boots: wear them a few times, break them in during training, and hope for the best. Here's what SAS soldiers do. They treat boot preparation like a military operation. Not all boots are equal. SAS soldiers don't just grab what's issued. They test multiple brands, multiple models, until they find the one that fits their foot shape perfectly. Wide feet need a different boot than narrow feet. High arches need different support than flat feet. One size does not fit all. This isn't about comfort, it's about preventing injuries during 40-mile marches with 70 pounds on your back. New boots are stiff, unforgiving. Wear them on a long march without prep, and you're guaranteed blisters. So SAS soldiers break them in over months, not days, months. They start by wearing boots around the base, walking, standing, just getting the leather to soften and conform to their feet. Then they wear them on short marches, 5 miles, then 10, gradually increasing distance and weight. They soak the boots in water, then wear them until they dry. This molds the leather to the exact shape of their feet. They heat the boots slightly, not enough to damage them, just enough to make the material more pliable, and wear them while doing the same molding process. By the time selection or deployment comes, those boots fit like a second skin. This is where it gets technical. Most people lace their boots the same way from top to bottom, tight, even tension all the way up. Wrong. SAS soldiers use variable tension lacing. Here's how it works. Bottom eyelets, snug, but not tight, allows your toes to move and prevents cramping. Midfoot, tighter, provides support and locks your heel in place. This prevents your foot from sliding forward on downhill slopes, which causes blisters. Ankle, moderate tension, tight enough for support, loose enough to allow blood flow, too tight here, and your feet swell during long marches. They also use specific lacing patterns depending on terrain. Steep climbs, lock the heel, flat ground, loosen the toe box. One SAS veteran explained, your laces aren't just holding your boot on, they're managing pressure points, preventing movement, and controlling blood flow. Get it wrong, and you're crippled by mile 10. Boots are only half the equation. Socks are the other half. SAS soldiers don't wear one pair of socks. They wear 2, inner layer, thin, moisture-wicking sock, pulls sweat away from your skin. Outer layer, thick, cushioned sock, provides padding and insulation. White to layers, because it creates a friction barrier. Instead of your foot rubbing against the boot, the 2 socks rub against each other. Your skin stays protected. They also change socks religiously, every rest stop, every night. Wet socks are the enemy. They soften your skin, making it vulnerable to blisters. So, you swap them out, dry the wet pair on your rucksack, and rotate. Carry 4 pairs minimum. Always have dry socks available. Before a long march, SAS soldiers tape their feet. Not after blisters form before. They identify hot spots, areas where their boots rub, heels, toes, the ball of the foot. Then they cover those spots with medical tape or specialized blister patches. This creates a smooth, slick surface. Friction slides over the tape instead of tearing your skin. They also use foot powder, keeps feet dry, reduces moisture, prevents fungal infections, and petroleum jelly. Applied to areas prone to chafing, creates a protective barrier. It takes 10 minutes before every march, but those 10 minutes prevent injuries that could end a mission. SAS soldiers don't just lace up and hope for the best. They actively manage their feet throughout the march. Every rest stop, no matter how brief, they check their feet, pull off boots, inspect for red spots, change socks if needed, rate tape hot spots. If a blister is forming, they deal with it immediately, drain it with a sterilized needle, cover it, adjust their lacing to relieve pressure on that area. They don't wait until it's a problem, because in the field, a small blister becomes a bleeding wound, and infection becomes a mission failure. One SAS instructor drilled it into recruits: your feet are your vehicle. You don't wait until your vehicle breaks down to check the oil. You maintain it constantly. Same with your feet. The American request be the 1990s. U.S. Special Operations units were working closely with the SAS, joint exercises, combined missions, shared training facilities. And American operators kept noticing the Brits didn't get foot injuries. So they asked, and the SAS shared, not reluctantly, not as a guarded secret. They taught it willingly, because in special operations, there's a brotherhood. If a technique saves lives and completes missions, you share it. Delta Force adopted the system first, then the SEALs, then Green Berets and Rangers. Today, U.S. Special Operations training includes detailed foot care instruction, boot preparation, lacing techniques, sock systems, blister prevention, all of it traced back to those conversations with SAS instructors who perfected the method over decades. The SAS boot system works because it treats foot care as a tactical skill, not an afterthought. In conventional units, you get issued boots and told to wear them. In the SAS, you're taught that your feet are mission-critical equipment that require constant maintenance. That mindset shift changes everything. You don't ignore pain, you address it. You don't accept blisters as inevitable, you prevent them. You don't wear wet socks because it's inconvenient to change. You change them because wet socks cause injuries. It's about discipline, attention to detail, and understanding that small things, socks, laces, tape, can determine whether a mission succeeds or fails. Here's what most people don't see: the long-term damage. SAS veterans often have destroyed feet, chronic pain, deformed toes, arthritis, nerve damage from decades of marching with heavy loads. Even with perfect boot prep, the human body has limits, and the SAS pushes those limits harder than almost anyone. But the boot system delays that damage, minimizes it, allows soldiers to operate at peak performance for years longer than they otherwise could. One retired SAS soldier put it this way: my feet are wrecked, but without that system, I'd have been medically discharged after 5 years instead of 20. It bought me a career, and more importantly, it kept me in the fight when my mates needed me. The boot seeker isn't really about boots, it's about the SAS philosophy, excellence in the smallest details. Other units focus on marksmanship, tactics, and physical fitness. The SAS focuses on those too, but they also obsess over everything else. How you pack your rucksack, how you maintain your weapon, how you prepare your boots, because they know that missions don't fail because of big, dramatic mistakes. They fail because someone ignored a small detail, a blister, a loose screw, a wet sock. And the best way to prevent failure is to master every detail, no matter how minor. That's why American special operators wanted to learn the boot system, not because it was revolutionary, but because it represented a level of discipline and attention to detail they recognized it as world-class. and in special operations. World class is the minimum standard. The year is 1980. Iranian Embassy. London. 6 gunmen have taken 26 hostages. The siege drags on for 6 days. Negotiations fail. Hostages are executed. Then, in 17 minutes, it's over. Black-clad figures rappel from the roof. Explosives blow out windows. Stun grenades detonate. Gunfire erupts. And when the smoke clears, 5 terrorists are dead. 1 is captured, and all but 1 hostage survives. The world watches on live television, and suddenly, everyone knows the name, SAS, but what they don't see is the decades of refinement behind those 17 minutes, the training, the tactics, the philosophy, the standard of excellence that turned a small British unit into the blueprint for special operations worldwide. This is the SAS legacy, and it changed modern warfare forever. Before the SAS, special operations meant large commando raids, 50 men, 100 men, overwhelming force dropped behind enemy lines. The SAS proved you didn't need that. For men, properly trained, properly equipped, could gather intelligence, sabotage targets, and create chaos far beyond their numbers. It was efficient, flexible, and nearly impossible to detect. American Special Forces noticed. During Vietnam, U.S. reconnaissance teams started adopting 4-man patrol structures, small, mobile, operating deep in enemy territory. The results spoke for themselves. These teams gathered intelligence conventional units couldn't touch. They called in airstrikes, set ambushes, disappeared before the enemy could respond. Today, 4-man teams are standard across special operations. SEALs, Delta Force, Australian, SASR, Canadian GTF2, all of them trace that structure back to the SAS, not because the SAS invented small unit tactics, but because they refined them into a science. Other militaries had elite units before the SAS, paratroopers, rangers, commandos, but the SAS introduced something new, a selection process designed to break you, not test you. Break you. Most military training is designed to build soldiers up. SAS selection is designed to tear them down and see what's left, and that philosophy spread. The U.S. Delta Force built their selection process directly on the SAS model, long distance, marches with heavy loads, solo navigation, no time hacks, no encouragement, just a standard, and you either meet it or you're gone. The Navy SEALs adopted similar principles during Hell Week. Extreme physical stress, sleep deprivation, constant pressure, weeding out anyone who might quit under real-world conditions. Even non-Western special forces study SAS selection. Russian Spetsnaz, Israeli Sayeret Matkal, Chinese Special Operations Forces. They don't copy it exactly, but they embrace the core idea. Elite units need a filter that most men can't pass, because the SAS proved that the right selection process creates soldiers who don't quit, don't crack, and don't fail their teammates. The best SAS mission is one the enemy never knows happen. That philosophy runs counter to traditional military thinking. Conventional forces want visible results, territory captured, enemies killed, objectives destroy. The SAS focuses on something else, maximum effect with minimum footprint. A 4-man patrol sneaks into an enemy airfield, plants charges on aircraft, slips away. The planes explode hours later. The enemy never sees who did it, never captures anyone, never even confirms it was sabotage rather than an accident. That's in SAS operation. Surgical, invisible, devastating. And that philosophy reshaped modern special operations. Today, special forces prioritize intelligence over action, observation over engagement, staying hidden over winning firefights. SEAL Team 6 doesn't announce their missions. Delta Force operates in the shadows. Britain's Special Boat Service follows the same model. Because the SAS proved that the most effective warfare isn't loud, it's silent, and the most dangerous enemy is the one you never see. The SAS doesn't hoard knowledge, they share it. Throughout the Cold War and beyond, SAS instructors trained Allied special forces, teaching jungle warfare desert operations, counterterrorism, hostage rescue. In return, they learned from those same allies. U.S. Navy SEALs taught maritime operations, Australian SAS shared desert survival techniques, Norwegian Special Forces taught Arctic warfare. This created a web of shared expertise, a global special operations community where tactics, techniques, and lessons learned flowed freely. The result: modern special forces are more capable, more adaptable, and more lethal than ever before, and much of that connectivity traces back to the SAS willingness to collaborate, to teach, to learn. One former Delta Force operator described it: the SAS didn't act like they had all the answers. They acted like we were all solving the same problems together. That humility combined with their skill made them the unit everyone wanted to train with. The Iranian embassy siege changed everything. Before 1980, counterterrorism was handled by police. After 1980, it became a military mission. The SAS proved that hostage rescue required military precision, speed, and firepower, and they developed the tactics to make it work: explosive entry, room-clearing drills, flashbang grenades, precision shooting in confined spaces. All of it refined over thousands of hours in the Killing House, the SAS close quarters battle training facility. American units built their own versions. Delta Force created their own Killing House. SEAL Team 6 trained in shoot houses modeled on the SAS design. Today, counterterrorism tactics worldwide are built on that foundation. Explosive breaching, dynamic room entries, hostage identification, under stress, shooting in 360-degree environments. The techniques vary by unit, but the core principles come from Hereford, the SAS home base, where those tactics were born. Here's what the legend doesn't show: the broken bodies and shattered minds. SAS veterans live with chronic injuries, shredded knees, damaged backs, hearing loss from decades of explosions, nerve damage, arthritis. And the psychological toll: PTSD, survivor's guilt, the weight of missions that went wrong, mates who didn't come home. One retired SAS soldier said it bluntly: "We're not superheroes. We're just men who pushed our bodies and minds past breaking point over and over until something gave." Usually multiple things. The SAS takes care of its own medical support, counseling, veteran networks, but the damage is real, permanent, and it's the price of operating at that level for years. That's part of the legacy too. The understanding that elite warfare extracts a cost, and the men who pay do so willingly, because the mission matters more than their comfort. Today, the SAS remains the benchmark. When new special forces units are created, they study the SAS. When existing units want to improve, they train with the SAS. When tactics need refining, they look to Hereford. Not because the SAS is perfect. They're not. They make mistakes. They lose people. They have failed missions just like everyone else. But they maintain a standard, a culture of excellence, a refusal to accept good enough. That standard shows in the details: the boot preparation, the patrol discipline, the nose control, the obsessive planning, the relentless training. It shows in their selection process, in their operational tempo, in the fact that SAS soldiers still operate into their 40s and age when most special operators have retired. And it shows in their results: missions completed, hostages rescued, targets eliminated, intelligence gathered. Year after year, decade after decade. The SAS legacy isn't about tactics or equipment, it's about mindset. Other units train to be strong, the SAS trains to be unbreakable. Other units train to win firefights, the SAS trains to avoid them entirely and win decisively when avoidance isn't possible. Other units focus on individual skill, the SAS focuses on team cohesion, on trust, on the knowledge that your patrol will never leave you behind. That philosophy creates soldiers who don't need constant supervision, who makes decisions in the field, who adapts when plans fall apart, who keeps going when every rational reason says to stop. And that's why the SAS standard spread globally. Not because other nations couldn't create elite units, but Because the SAS showed what elite really means. It's not about being tough. It's about being professional, disciplined, relentless, and committed to a standard higher than yourself. The battlefield keeps changing, technology advances, threats evolve. But the core of special operations remains the same. Small teams, deed, penetration, precision action, invisible presence. The SAS will keep adapting, new tools, new tactics, new training, but the standard won't change. The philosophy won't change. Because the SAS proved something fundamental about warfare. The best soldiers aren't the biggest or strongest. They're the ones who refuse to quit, who masters every detail, who trusts their teammates absolutely. And who understands that the mission always comes first. That's the legacy. That's the standard. And that's why, decade after the Iranian embassy siege, when special forces worldwide train, plan, and fight, they still look to the same source, Hereford, the home of the SAS, where legends aren't born, they're forged.